where was that?
Zoning
And the
bylaws.
zoning bylaws said for a public way, and then we confirmed this with council, it's got to go to the select board. So that's for the cemetery hours sign. And then the second sign we talked about is for the section where we've been doing the cleaning, and an indication that we want to restrict the mowing. Oh, good. Thank you, Patrick. Hi, Patrick.
Oh, hi, Patrick.
The second sign we talked about was for the historic section where we have, we would like to reduce the amount of mowing. And so we have the option of doing something different there if we want to. So I want to share some thoughts on what I put together, and it's all up for debate. It's all just a little show and tell. So this happens to be an example of a sign, and it's approximately 12 by 15. And it's about the size of a sign used for like a no parking next to a road, so that you could see it from your car. And one of my thoughts was to, initially I was looking at something that looked more like a no parking sign. And Patrick, it looks like you can't see that very well.
Patrick, you're muted.
So you're muted, Patrick.
We can't hear you.
So I have it pinned, I can see it.
Okay.
Okay, so the, this, however, it kind of mimics a road sign, and that's also not something we're allowed to do. So this type of sign with a black boundary around the sign, and the shape of the sign is too much like a governmental sign. So it's not quite right. And I thought, well, all right, what happens if we do something more like this? So cemetery open, dawn to dusk. It has an oval shape to the outline, which I thought might be sort of in keeping with the historic idea of things. And so that's one option. So what we need to figure out is how would we mount this? Where would we put it? And so.
Does the town have any kind of style sheet that we're supposed to follow for?
I believe so.
And so if anybody has access to that style sheet, I would love to get it. But I did try, and I wasn't able to get one. So I also did a little Googling out there in the world. And so there are some other options to just, make it a little more cutesy perhaps, with some other color and style that says, hey, this is specific to the cemetery. These are the hours. So that's also a possibility.
I love the way they describe dark dusk. Oh, until dark,
dusk.
till dusk only. I thought at first it said dark dusk.
Right. So, obviously something more the size of this, but in this kind of format, or, it could go in a landscape format.
It's too bad that the rectangle doesn't work, because that's what most of the headstones look like.
Yes. Yeah. You're right.
And so, we could modify that. Did I do one of those? Here's another version, just to give more white space between cemetery open, dawn to dusk, and not have the white part, the bottom part of the line, just provide the black line around the top, right? That's also a possibility.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's.
I would think that would look a little unfinished somehow.
Yeah, it could.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right.
I can see that, yeah.
The grid in my brain.
But I think the grid in everyone's brain would go like.
Right. Oh, yeah. So I did, I don't know if you saw this one or not. So there is this other option to go in this orientation.
Yeah, I think something simple.
Yes, easy to read.
Easy to read,
Yeah.
simple, nothing.
Yeah.
That's why
I like the oval, that's very
yeah,
nice.
it's, It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm a plaid person than a paisley.
A plaid rather than a paisley, interesting.
I like the regularity,
Yeah.
but then that's just me.
Yeah,
So
That's
you-
fine. Yeah, that's.
Any thoughts on anything that,
No, I guess that's up to the cemetery commission, whatever they want to do. Mounting it, I've been using a lot of black vinyl posts because it doesn't look so industrial. It's a galvanized and a regular, you know. So, but that's up to your,
And where would these go? How many of these would we have?
didn't Mike say we needed to have one at every single driveway? And I think there are 3 driveways, is that right?
your 1, 2, 3,
4.
4, and then you can also come in through Namkeg now.
Namkeg,
It's
right.
actually
So it's
5.
5, yeah.
but are we allowed to put one there?
We could probably put one down as we turn into the cemetery.
Okay,
Cut
yeah.
by Norman Rockwell there,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Probably put one there, so.
I think that's funny by Norman Rockwell.
Okay, so we need 5 signs,
Yeah,
okay.
So,
Patrick, any thoughts?
2,
You're all great.
what, did you say they're all pretty good?
They're all good.
You're garbled, Patrick.
Yeah, you're terribly garbled, Patrick, we can't hear you. He's gonna call in? Okay, and so the size of the sign, I'm putting it
So
on
actually
this.
be this
It would
big.
be more
Yeah.
this size than the paper. My printer doesn't go bigger, so,
And you said you've been using black vinyl posts?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
I think that sounds
Kind of
good.
softer, rather than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so how do these things, do you manufacture signs and how do they get manufactured?
We actually have a couple of vendors we reach out to,
Okay,
and there's printed vinyl, and there's
Yep.
reflective, and there's a couple different options on that as well, I mean, kind of. I think it's pretty much whatever you can think of, they can make one way or another,
Okay.
So,
I think something in a matte finish so that it's not shiny and reflective, because that tends to be harder to read if the sunlight is a certain way.
yeah, I agree. So matte finish, and I also just appreciate the black and white, although if we have some type of style sheet for
Yeah.
signs, do we want to change the color? Does that make any sense?
Does anybody know if we have?
I don't believe we have a style sheet for signs. It's one of the things we need.
Okay,
I'm wondering if we're going to need to have the lettering be a little thicker to be read from a distance.
yep,
That's fine that this distance here, but across the room or whatever, that might not be quite beefy enough.
yeah, I did look at some other, government standards related to fonts and sizes. So based on the size of the sign, they recommend certain size
Widths.
fonts, widths.
I like the nice clean lettering.
Good.
And right now, I think I'm actually preferring the rectangular.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
as
do you
opposed to
mean?
the vertical.
The landscape rather than the portrait.
Landscape, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is landscape, this is portrait, so we're leaning towards
And I like the fact that dawn to dusk is on one line.
line, yep,
Yeah.
me too. Okay,
All right, we actually do have a quorum now, so
Oh,
we can actually vote on this. Before we do, what would be the next steps? We don't have signed font size or standards or anything like that, then we don't have that, so.
so we just want to make sure we make it readable to somebody
Yeah.
driving in.
Yeah.
And how tall?
At
should
what
this
height?
be
At what height?
Do you have a height recommendation?
To get above, snow in the wintertime?
yeah, I don't know, when do you guys want to see it, 4 feet, somewhere around there, I mean, it's kind of up to you, I guess. I don't,
Something that can be seen when you're driving. I think
Yeah.
that's,
I think something that's up about maybe, this high might be good, rather than, we don't want it low to the ground.
No,
because
no,
then
no.
people won't see it.
no. I think, yeah, 4 feet sounds
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
Okay,
So that the top of the sign is 4 feet above ground.
yeah, I think, how does that sound to people? It sound okay?
yes, yep,
Yeah? All right,
So that's not,
it's up here.
that's 4 feet.
How long is this? I think this is only 2 feet. No, here we have. 4 feet is up here.
That's a little tall, I think.
Not if you're in a car.
not if you're in a car.
Especially did you see the news last night about
No.
the,
Do we wanna hear the
the
news?
vehicles that are so large now that you can't see in front of the vehicle? It's.
You mean
it
as the
was
driver?
The angle, yeah, the driver.
Oh,
There was a woman
jeez.
who killed her child
Oh, my God.
because he got out to get the mail and stuff, and she couldn't see him.
Ugh. Okay, let's make it 4 feet. Yeah, I think, yeah, 4 feet. We do want it visible when people are driving,
Yeah.
Yep,
especially if they're driving by too.
Then the sign would be like up here.
yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, all right.
Great.
So, yeah,
So Hugh, can you and I work on the final version of this together? So I'll send you something, I guess, and we'll figure out what could go to the
Okay.
contractor.
so,
As a-
so we like black
So
vinyl
we do
posts?
the graphics and give it to the sign maker, or does the sign maker do a graphic proof and give it to us?
they can do a proof for you if you want, unless you can just think of something you want, they'll make it and they'll have it had aluminum backing and, be a thick aluminum backing sign
And so we can give them a PDF of what we
I'm
want?
sure we can forward. I haven't
Yeah.
done that, but I'm sure it's, it's.
Yes.
Sure it's easy
Yes.
enough to do, right?
Yeah, sign companies take PDFs.
Yeah.
I know I've done it.
All right, so black vinyl posts, maybe thicker lettering, matte finish, landscape, 4 feet. The sign will start, and
So it'll be
top of the sign,
white background.
white background, black letters.
And let's see. And we want to see dawn to dusk on one line.
Yes,
And so also at one point we discussed wording of open from sunrise to sunset. So in order to reduce the number of letters, I modified it to dawn to dusk.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. All right.
Okay.
Can we, so we agree, we approve this,
I'll make a
Woo-hoo.
motion.
all right, yes, I make a motion to approve, to continue with the sign as described.
Proceed with the sign is with the
okay.
dimensions and description as we've.
Yeah, right.
determined.
I'll second that motion, and we need a vote. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye?
I,
Patrick?
Hi, Patrick White.
All right,
Patrick
great. Wonderful. Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, and so part two.
Yes.
The second sign was related to mowing in this section is limited to protect the stones from damage. We may or may not still want to put this sign in.
I was actually going to bring that up because it seems as though you are mowing enough. And we're talking about getting the trimmers with guards. And maybe we don't need this. Maybe we will be mowing more. What your thoughts on that are?
it's kind of up to what you guys want to do. I know that we tried to limit mowing and we got a lot of negative
Right.
response from it, it was a
Yep.
bad reflection of your community as well as the highway, It
Right.
just looked like we just didn't care
Abandoned it.
anymore,
Right, right.
So if we're gonna try it again, I think we ought to definitely put a sign up if we're gonna try to limit it all, but other than that, we can do our due diligence on, trying to make precautions.
Yeah. Where are we on getting the guards for the trimmers or getting trimmers that have guards?
I reached out to Meadow Farms and they were looking at it for us, to see if it was available on the trimmers that we got.
Okay.
They do make one built into a trimmer, but that's, purchasing all new trimmers, so, whether we buy them or fabricate them in-house or something, that's a couple options we were looking at. No.
So I was also wondering, and this is probably more than we really want to deal with, but do we want to have some type of, a display panel that's also informational? Do we have something bigger that people can read about the historic preservation? Do we want to like have a map of the cemetery and then maybe a little description of, zero in on the historic section and say, oh, this is what's going on with the stones, this is what, this is why we're not mowing in this area because there's a historic precedent of, let's have the grass grow a little taller here. This is what it would have looked like in the 1850s or whenever we started mowing. And I did a little research on lawn mowers and found out that, we started with real mowers, but that was in the 1800s. I don't know when the town got its first lawn mower, but they also, before the lawnmowers, they would just scythe everything. And I can't imagine scything through a cemetery.
Yeah.
So that's just, some other options. And this requires some more thought and maintenance on our part, because we'd want to make sure if we did install some type of kiosk of sorts that we keep it informative and up to date. Otherwise, we'll just have a faded looking thing in the landscape, which I don't think we want.
So thoughts on that?
Yeah, having some sort of an interpretive sign would probably be nice at some point.
Yeah, yeah. Patrick, any thoughts on that?
No, I like it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea. And I think it's something that we maybe look at a little bit down the road, a year. And I know that Shelby was looking up signs that could withstand weather for Laurel Hill. So and you've done a lot of work.
Yeah, I
on
did
signs.
the interpretive sign up in Laurel Hill Park.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have it.
I'll go look at that.
Go look at that because Gee Signs did that for us.
Yeah.
And it turned out really nice, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And especially a year or two from now, as we get further into these projects, I think it's a great
Yeah,
idea.
because it's like an open book concept.
Yes.
Slanted.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
they can be wonderful.
Yep.
And maybe that's something CPC would help us fund as well, because it's going to be, a little different from the other work.
And I actually did the
Layout.
cemetery brochure that the museum put together. I did all the composition work for that.
Yeah,
And that's a nice overview with highlighting certain
right,
graves.
yeah.
Where does that reside? Where is that?
It's online, isn't it?
Yeah, I can send you the PDF
Okay.
so you can see it. And it's a brochure so that the first thing you see is actually the last page, but that's,
Okay.
so it's folded. If you printed it out, well, you can't, because, if you
what's
don't,
the
if you
size?
can't print legal size, because it's a legal
Oh, okay.
size. But you'll get to see what the content is.
But so getting back to the mowing thing now, let's talk, can we talk about that for a little bit? How, if the grass was allowed to get to be about 6 to 8 inches, no more than that, how often would you be mowing, you think?
Well, it's hard to say. Depends on the season.
Yeah, that's
Depends on the growing season. It was slowed down a little
And
bit
if it's
this year.
drought.
Last year was crazier.
Well, right, around the rain.
So projectively once a month or something,
Yeah.
so once 5 weeks.
Yeah, because I have to say, my first thought was, well, I think we're going to be mowing more often. I don't know if we need the sign, but you're mentioning historically, and it is somewhat more protective. So now I'm wondering if we maybe should mow a little less often, not
Right.
so often that people are,
It's- Just keep in mind, it's not gonna be consistent, it's gonna be.
Right.
Especially because there's so much time
yes.
Right.
in that area, which doesn't grow anyway.
Right,
Right.
you have kind of.
Well, that's a good point. So maybe we don't want that blotchy look. I don't know.
Unless you wanna try, we can let it go till you guys decide it's time to mow it, I don't know, I guess.
Oh, there's something to be said for just popping over and taking a look at it.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's
right.
time to,
Mow it at your discretion or something, you know? I mean, I don't know if that's something you want to try or not, something to think of. I mean, we got a few more meetings before we get to there again.
right.
About that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say, unless we can get the string trimmers with the guards, and I can hear this could be a financial issue as well, I don't think, if we can't get those, then we are back.
Yeah,
We
right.
need-
I don't think it's so much a financial issue, it's just trying to figure out the best way to mount something or have something. I think,
Yeah,
you know, any money is, you know, there as well,
well, that's true.
well spent.
It's more an engineering issue than,
Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to get a way to gear it up that's functional and worth it, you know, that works well, so.
Yeah. Well, given that it is, I mean, what prompted this was the protection of stones. So if we're unable to protect the stones mechanically, then I think potentially not mowing and maybe we'll go to a different once-a-month regimen in that section. I think that kind of makes sense.
it might be worth it. It would be an obstacle, but it might be worth it that if we decide that we don't want to mow in a certain area, if there were a way to do some sort of swag
To
string.
to demarcate the area?
To demarcate with the sign that says, to protect these older stones, blah, blah, blah. Just
Right.
so that somebody can see visually.
Yeah, what we're doing, yeah. Well, it sounds like maybe the next step is to find out about the string trimmer, because you're right, it's protecting the stones is
Yeah.
the first priority. So we need to find that out. And so we have some time.
Yeah,
So maybe we make that the first step?
yep.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. So if you think you might be able to know that by maybe February or March?
Yeah, I can get on that, I'm sure,
Okay.
I don't see an
Yeah.
issue with that, so.
Because we'll be meeting November, we won't be meeting in December. And so we'll start back up in January. And I think that would be a good time to get this settled and we can decide about this, yeah. But I think you've said that very clearly, that the goal is to protect the stones, so whatever we need to do. How long, do you remember how long we went without mowing before people began to complain?
It was, I think it was in the June, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was really, kind of just spurted up and then it
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
kind of reached its height.
yeah, all
I'm
right.
sure it was in the June.
Right. So if by January or February at the latest, if you could know what's going on with the string trimmers,
Yep.
that would really be a huge help. And then we can just discuss it further. All right, that sounds good. All right. And I think if we do end up mowing less, we do want to have a sign or two in there that says, this is why we're doing it.
Yep.
Okay?
Hey, Karen,
Yeah?
I have a work Zoom at 11 a.m. So if there's anything you need a vote on, you might want to rearrange the agenda and just, get a vote while you still have a
Want to
quorum.
approve the minutes while he's,
Yes. Well, the first thing we can do is we can approve the minutes. We weren't able to do that till you joined us.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Wonderful.
Patrick White. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. I think the next thing to jump down to is the next step on the Sergeant Stones. What Preservation Inc. did, the two consultants that we're working with, is they did the tasks 1A through 1E, which is they actually did a preliminary cleaning of the stones and pulled them, dug around to see what was underneath. So what they're saying now is the next step, phase 2, is to actually raise up those two stones very, very carefully, to bring in special equipment to raise them up and then look around underneath to see if they think there's something underneath there that might be an old leg, which would give us a sense of what it is. So the next, and that obviously is not going to happen until spring. It does require, equipment and, all that kind of thing. So it's somewhat specialized. And that what they would do is they would clean the undersides also. If you haven't seen the clean stones, it's amazing.
The pictures were dramatic.
Yeah, they really are.
Are they aware that the library has a rubbing of the Sergeant Stone?
I don't know.
It doesn't sound like,
No. Now you can actually read it, though. You can actually read but so, and then they would place the slabs on temporary horizontal timber supports on adjacent ground, and they would protect them from the weather. That next phase is 24,500. So if we think this is something we want to go forward with, I propose we vote on it. Obviously, we won't be doing it till spring, but Any thoughts?
Just to do the raise up for
To see what's underneath,
Research.
clean underneath.
Investigation.
Get them off the ground, but that's much better for their preservation, is to get them off the ground and continue doing the research. I can go into this more if you want.
Is the goal for us to return them to the table format or not? I mean, I was questioning what that means structurally to the stone. Is it more susceptible to, like breaking in the middle or something? If it's on four corner legs?
Yes, down the road we have to get them off the ground.
Yeah.
And do we get them off the ground by recreating the legs? And if we do, they're suggesting that we put something in the middle.
Yes.
That is something that we would all need to discuss. It's going to be a very expensive option. And there are other options that will get them off the ground that will be structurally more sound. So that's a down the road discussion.
Yeah, no, they were talking about an alternate, which was a simple platform, maybe like an oval that they would sit on. But that it was their opinion that getting them off the ground was really important.
Yeah, I think that's the next step. And seeing what's underneath. For example, it's very clear, they've identified that both stones have shifted, that when the legs went, they fell to the right. So everything's shifted over by 6 inches.
And if those legs are underneath, they could be making the supports different heights, which could also damage the stone.
And they think if the legs are under there, they're broken.
Yeah.
And like that may be one that we could use as a sample. So that's definitely a down the road discussion. And that's why when they first approached us with this plan, it was, let's do it piece by piece. And at the end of each piece, we stop and talk and say, now that we see what it looks like, what's the best. So the next step is to get them off the ground. So I make a motion that we approve the 24-5 to do the next phase of the Sargent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Well, aye? All right,
Hi, Patrick.
wonderful. Well, thank you. That was real quick. All right, and then the next thing, we want to start looking at the bylaw revisions. Patrick, you got that material that I sent out, yes?
I did, yes.
Okay.
I would suggest that we not do the very first one. Sure. Start talking about the other ones that
Sure.
might be smoother going. I would like to start with 1.2.
Okay,
Okay,
and that's residents or taxpayers, including longtime residents or taxpayers who have needed to move to assisted living or nursing facilities or have transferred their property.
I'd like to discuss the bit about having to move to assisted living or nursing facilities. For example, Kimball Farms, that is considered the word just went out of my head. A life care facility, because even the people that are in the independent section, that's considered medical life care because they have automatic access to move to the other sections. So just saying assisted living or nursing facilities, I think maybe it would be more general to say a life care facility.
so replace those two words with life care.
Yeah, and not get specific because someone might take exception to saying, okay, well, if you're in the independent section, even though the monies that you spend to be there are classed as, half of them is classed as being a medical deduction, your taxes. So I would suggest that a life care facility.
Michael also was concerned about taxpayers.
Yeah. Those that just buy a little plot of land to.
Right, exactly. And so what we said was, should we just take away taxpayers? And I also asked, does this need to be a bylaw or could it be a regulation? All of our regulations at this point seem to be bylaws, which makes them very difficult to change as the situation changes. So could we drop this as a bylaw and turn it into a regulation?
And exactly what should a bylaw contain? I think that would be
Right.
my question as to
Right.
what is the distinction? How can we separate it?
Right, I feel like as a resident, I have the ability to register to vote in town, therefore I can also vote in town meeting. And I personally would prefer to vote on this particular bylaw rather than making it something that we, the commission, can change. I think it's more important because it's more town-wide.
And it has a financial impact on the town.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. Patrick?
Well, on the first point on taxpayers, I think we should, if we don't want to include taxpayers, I think we should say residents and homeowners. There's a lot of folks who may not be full-time residents who are nevertheless very strongly affiliated with the town and may choose or want to be buried here. So I think maybe if you don't want to, have someone with a little plot be eligible, we could at least open it up to homeowners in addition to residents. Residents would cover local homeowners as well as people who rent.
So you're saying homeowner rather than saying a landowner? You're
Yeah,
making
so
a
basically, I mean,
distinction
if your concern was somebody with a little parcel that they buy just so they could get buried there, then I think a way around that would be to open it up to all homeowners and residents.
there. Okay, and because a renter would come under the residence
That's
category.
right. That's right.
Okay,
This is my thought. I mean, I'm amenable to whatever you want to do, but yeah.
I think that's a good point,
yep,
because we want to cover the long-term
Yeah.
renters too. I mean, people like John Cronson, who was here for, rented a stone court for over 40 years.
I think also Candace made a good point about keeping this as a bylaw. I think it's important enough that it should be, Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we're talking about changing a couple words here. So it would be residents and residents or homeowners, including long-term residents or homeowners who have needed to move to life care facilities. Does that sound what you were thinking about? Okay. All right.
right?
Okay. So if everyone's comfortable with that, we'll type that up and I think we should vote on it at another meeting, but I think
Okay.
that's, yeah.
Okay. So,
Is
yeah.
there a way to get around all of these?
Sibling, parent, child,
Yeah,
grandchild.
the transferring, is there a generic wording that we could use there, a general wording to make it so much easier to read and interpret?
My memory of when this was put in was to cover a lot of.
Yes.
They tried to, yeah, so I don't know. Yeah.
One question I have is, should we give the cemetery commission a little bit of flexibility in the event that there is a situation we don't anticipate in this bylaw regulation? So, the cemetery commission is empowered to interpret and make exceptions to this by a majority or maybe a super majority. You could make it like 2/3 or something. Just to make sure that we're not missing something that it's always kind of like the things you don't think of.
Right.
And there are legal differences that can come in too. I mean, when they come up with new way to do trusts or whatever.
Yeah.
So Patrick, can you give us that wording again or your thoughts on that
I think
wording?
the cemetery commission is empowered to make exceptions to this by a 2/3 vote, something like that. I mean, it needs to be wordsmithed, but I think that's the sentiment.
Would that apply couldn't that statement be
just think
applied
that's
to
the one.
the whole bylaw?
It could, or we could limit it to 1.2.
Well, there is, in the very first bylaw that we're not discussing today, at the last sentence is, this commission shall have charge, care, and management of the town cemeteries. perhaps we add something there that is a general,
Isn't there something further on too that sort of explains?
Yeah, I think it's 1.4, maybe.
yeah. Yeah, that was a very confusing one, actually. Well, how about, I wrote down that sentence. How about if we just add it for now? We're not voting on it, so we can see how it reads and then how it reads with all of the rest of it as well, in a context. 1.3, we're suggesting no change, obviously, that's fine. 1.4, Candace asked, does this mean in effect at the time the right was given, do we have to know and access the bylaws for the time period when a plot was sold, when determining the right of an heir to a family plot?
Once again, this could be covered by having a little bit of flexibility with the commission's determinations.
Right.
But does that mean we change it then? Or do we even need it? For one thing, your question, Candace, was if an heir wants to be buried in a family plot, purchased and used by parents circa 1980, that still has space available, are heirs allowed to be buried there? Well, we just voted at our last meeting to give the chair that power to say yes or no. And in fact, I did say yes to this woman from Colorado. We had a discussion about it. So we're already handling that
Right.
way.
Right.
Do we need this bylaw at all? I'm not sure why it's here. That might be a question for our town council.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Can you get clarification on that, Karen?
I will, yeah. Because I really don't know what it's for. Yeah, and that's, Pat, you're right. If there is that second half that says, any conditions imposed thereon by the cemetery commission, which is kind of the thing that Patrick was just referring to. So I will check on
The
that.
way this is, but technically it says, and any conditions means they would have to meet these conditions plus whatever
Plus.
additional ones. I'm saying create an exception to the rule kind of flexibility.
Right, I hear you. Well, I think we need to find out what this one is for. I still don't understand what it requires us to do, other than do a lot of research.
Wouldn't we actually want to impose the regulations that we have now rather than in the past?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I think this is maybe opening up possibilities of doing things that we wouldn't allow now, but were allowed in the past.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So I would think that we would
Well,
want to abide by what regulations there are now.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Pat. And, if this were a private cemetery, it's possible it could have been sold with a specific deed that said, yes, you can have a 6-foot obelisk on your family lot. I think we would have to let that happen because it was allowed back then.
Right.
And now they want to erect that monument.
Yeah.
I don't know that we see that in a municipal cemetery.
And we would have to, if the historical digging, we would have to go through to find out what all the regulations were at some time.
Right.
Do we have a good idea of how many plots were actually sold and are the property of somebody else?
No, well, and also no, we don't. And I mean, it would require a lot of research.
Yeah.
And also from what Mike has said, at some point, and I think you said this too, at some point, it all becomes town property after a certain number of years. So, for example, anybody who bought land in the old section, no, it's all part of the town now, so.
We buy burial rights. We don't buy the right to the land.
Right, I realize that now, but I
Okay.
didn't know if there's still grandfathering of plots that were actually sold in the past.
We're certainly not doing that. I mean, like that woman did have to come to us
Yes,
for
right.
permission and that's fairly recently.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to find out more about this one for sure.
So which one are we up to now?
1.5, no change.
1.6, is all monuments, markers, boundary markers, and permanent plantings shall be subject to the approval of the cemetery commission, and their placement shall be under the supervision of the cemetery commission. Hedges, trees, shrubs shall not be permitted in the town cemetery except as required by the cemetery commission. Seasonal decorations are allowed and may be removed at the discretion of the highway superintendent.
Oh, you have power.
I'm going to go to your head there. This is one I would argue should be a regulation. First of all, we're not doing it. We're not approving all monuments markers. Yeah.
The only thing with the highway superintendent, should that also say and/or?
Cemetery consultant? Oh,
Or consultant, and that way there it doesn't, if you guys,
Right.
you guys almost trump what I think. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think if it's, comes into a
Yeah.
pushing and shoving contest, you guys have more power than the highway superintendent, I guess would be.
Yeah.
It's just, that's all I'm saying.
Right. I mean, I just think there's a lot of problems with this one. And I would love to drop it as a bylaw, create a set of regulations, which we're on our way to doing anyway, and update those as needed. And when situations come up, we can, we have flexibility. But we're not following this bylaw now.
right. Yeah, I think given this is related to the look and the feel of the cemetery, that we could make it a simple regulation that we can monitor as the years go by.
I have a very basic question about the hedges, trees, and shrubs. I know Laurel Hill paid for the hedges.
On the outside?
On the perimeter.
Yeah.
I have a question about, why are we hiding our cemetery? Why are we enclosing it in shrubs?
Well, there's a couple of answers. One is it actually, personally, I think aesthetically it looks better. However, I also did learn when the consultants were here that it's helping protect the stones from car fumes.
Ah, cool, okay.
And if you want to see what cemeteries look like without anything, go down to Great Barrington and take a look. They look very stark. Personally, I think it's a very, and the hedges are looking so much better since you've been monitoring, taking care of
The
them.
hedges also create, I think, a more of a quiet space for reflection,
Yeah.
I do think that the stone, kind of fencing or board or whatever it is beautiful, and it is sort of sad to hide it, but I understand why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when there was a separate corporation, nonprofit corporation running the information booth, and we would sit in there and tell people, some of the staff people would give directions to the Rockwell or whatever, saying, turn at the cemetery, and we got comments back, where's the cemetery? We didn't see the cemetery. So that's one of the reasons that I made that comment, so.
So we're not hiding the cemetery, but we are protecting it.
And there might be locations where we do remove some of those trees, right? And where there's a view. It's like, take a view of this right here. That might.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thought too.
All right,
And
I'm going to log out now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Okay,
Patrick.
Hi,
thanks.
Patrick.
Bye-bye.
And at some point, we might be able to bring the hedges down a little bit, even because you seem like you've been bringing them
We're trying to train
slowly.
it back.
Yeah, very slowly. I know, because there's,
It's hard to turn a tree into a shrub.
but you've been doing a good job. So, but it does protect the stones, and it does soften. And I agree, it gives a sense of separation, peacefulness.
I mean, when you're in there, it gives you a sense that you are enclosed too, that you are in a room
Yeah.
and more contemplative.
And then as you continue walking, things open up because you can see toward Namkeg, and that's, so it's a different situation. So 1.7 is another one that we are currently,
Let's go back. 1.6, are we taking this out of the bylaws?
well, I would like to.
I would like to take it out of the bylaws too, and I think it could be potentially 3 different regulations. One related to markers and permanent plantings, one related to the hedges, trees, and shrubs, and one related to seasonal decoration.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. Would you write that up?
I certainly will.
Thank you. I think that's a fantastic idea. All right. So 1.7 deals with monuments, and we'll wrap this up soon. So I just,
How is this different than 1.6?
well, it talks about monuments and headstones, and it says they must meet requirements of 2 foot. It actually gives very specific sizes. Setbacks, 30-inch height limit, which we're not following. We're not following any of these, as far as I know. I would have to check with Rich Atwood about the setbacks. But we're not currently enforcing that 30 limit.
Side setbacks. Yeah, we might be doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, we might be. Again, I think this is a regulation,
Yes.
something we,
Or just to make a comment that at 1.7, that monuments and headstones must meet the requirements of the cemetery commission,
Yeah,
period.
yeah. Good point. Yeah.
nice.
So we can modify that as we need to.
And the same with, if we wanted to do the
Got it.
combine, take 1.6 and as
Yeah,
says, that and make it all say that all monument markers, boundary markers
Yes, yep.
shall be the subject, pooh.
yeah.
Just get away with those.
7 together. Yeah, I like that.
Even have a bit about the corner markers.
Yeah, that's also a regulation.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's stop there because then we're moving on to section 2 and,
Yeah.
and I always want the meetings to run, not last too long. Okay, so anything else? Just to update you guys, that request for burial by the former resident, that's that situation that we've talked about, which is, her family plot is there. She lives in Colorado. Hasn't lived here in 30 years, but there is room for there. And we did say yes. A couple days later, I got a phone call from another couple who said, how do we get into the Stockbridge Cemetery? My brother-in-law is buried there. And I thought, oh, they must
You
have
have to die first.
yeah, well, there is that. Well, there is that, yes. I didn't say that. So I thought maybe they're talking about joining their brother-in-law. And then after a while, it became clear that they just wanted their own plot and they've never lived in Stockbridge. And I said, I am so sorry. My neighbor's house is for sale. That is the only way you can get into the Stockbridge Cemetery. So I think we are getting some clarity on that in terms of cremations and spaces and that sort of thing. Let's talk about green burials next time.
Okay.
And just to let you know, there was a tour by
Section
the
2.
Berkshire County Historical Society.
Did they fill out our form?
They filled out the form. They filled out the form online. And
That was beautiful.
it worked very well. And I did the approval. And then I actually decided to stop in and see how many people actually came. They had said they'd have 20 people. I think they had 21, which was fine. And then, I joined the tour and it was, so that was the only request we've had all year. So, but it all worked. The form worked very well. I just wanted to let you know that. So
Good.
Our next meeting is November 22nd,
Awesome.
Tuesday, November 22nd.
One,
Yeah.
just to go back to the time around the stones. It seems like we've always got a little money left in the labor. Is there a way to maybe, if somebody knew somebody, reach out to maybe the high school, the greenhouse? I guess if we could get a better commitment from somebody to help with that in the spring, if, maybe get some plats secured now or in spring order, if we can. I don't know if we could find somebody that would commit to maybe doing some of the ones that have already been done.
I wonder if Greenagers would be interested in doing that.
Yeah, I guess I'm throwing that out there. Rather than have spring come and then we're thinking about this, if we can move forward on some of this stuff and line it up.
Yeah.
There might be a better option or time. I don't know. I guess I'm just.
The
throwing it out
consultants
there.
thought time was perfect. It loves growing there. It's low. It smells good when you walk
We
on it.
want a lawn, that's all.
I know.
Yeah, but if we can get somebody maybe to help in the spring, do the ones behind the ones that they're preserving. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out.
Right, and then there is some money, because I think Greenagers would want to get paid a little bit, but there is some money in
Or
labor.
even have town volunteers too.
Yeah.
Somehow put it out there that, we're looking for
Maybe we can use.
volunteers to, have a plant time.
Maybe we can use some of that labor money for
Yeah.
coffee and donuts. Nice people that way.
Well, it's funny you say that, because after the headstone cleaning, I decided in the spring, we're having coffee and donuts. And we're going to provide coffee and donuts. We need that. So, all right. Thank you all very, that's a great idea. And I will follow up and see, talk to Green Acres and see. I mean, volunteers are great, but I kind of like the idea of knowing there's somebody coming
A
in.
real commitment.
Yeah, yeah.
It's sort of nice, though, to get people in town more involved with the cemetery before they go there, you know?
Oh,
Right.
sure. Oh, yeah. No, but maybe we could do both. We could have Green Agers and volunteers. It certainly worked well to have the combination of the consultants and the volunteers working on the headstones.
Yeah, cleaning.
It worked out very, very well. So, and then we could maybe have some money, we could buy some flats of time.
Yeah, that's what I think we can secure some spring order. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
That's
So.
a great idea. Okay, good.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you all very much.
Do you need to move?
The move to adjourn, we do.
Yes.
I'd
Make a
second.
motion. Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Thanks, guys. Great.